Thank you. So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us and welcome to our Gatsby Benchmark workshop. My name's Steve Trotter and I'm Careers Hub Operations Lead for here in Hertfordshire. And today we're going to be focusing on Gatsby Benchmark 1, a stable careers programme, and Gatsby Benchmark 3, addressing the needs of each pupil. We've got a nice packed agenda today. Really happy with who we've got as guest speakers. They're going to have some really engaging and exciting content today. So I'll start off shortly talking about Gatsby Benchmark 1 and 3 and give some hints and tips on how to meet those benchmarks. I'll hand over to Jenny Longstaff from Complete Careers, who is a Quality and Careers Standard Assessor. Really looking forward to hearing from Jenny and her insight about the standards and also how you can sign up if you're interested in going for the award. We'll hear from Hertfordshire careers leaders, including Sarita Mistry and Judith Crimes, who have gone forward for the Quality and Careers Standard or similar awards. Then we'll move on to hearing some best practice from other careers leaders, including Julie Stevenson, Kate Robinson and Sophie Antwi, around Gatsby Benchmark 1 and Gatsby Benchmark 3. And then at the end of today's session, we'll go through some resources, upcoming events, and for anyone that's interested, some time to ask some questions as well. So thank you for joining us and taking the time. We'll launch into the session. So the aim of today's session is to help gain a better understanding of Gatsby Benchmark 1 and Gatsby Benchmark 3 and how you can implement those benchmarks in your school or college. Careers leaders and EAs will also find out about the Quality and Careers Standard and how it could help them with their careers programme, and at the same time it will also help with the Gatsby Benchmarks. We've got careers leaders who will then give their best practice around Gatsby Benchmark 1, and that will help others inform their practice as well. So here at the Careers and Enterprise Company under the Hertfordshire Local Enterprise Partnership, our mission is to inspire and support young people into the fast changing world of work. We aim to strengthen the links between education and employment with our enterprise advisors working alongside careers leaders. We raise the profile of careers education here in Hertfordshire by backing the Gatsby Benchmarks. And the whole aim is to raise aspiration among young people and help every young person in Hertfordshire find their next best step. So today's session is going to predominantly focus on Gatsby Benchmark 1, a stable careers programme, and Gatsby Benchmark 3, addressing the needs of each pupil. And there's been some research that came out last academic year to show us about the benefits of backing the Gatsby Benchmarks. And there was actually nationally almost a 10% decline in NEET students from schools and colleges that had got 8 out of 8 Gatsby Benchmarks, so sort of showcasing how much of an impact it can have by completing all 8 benchmarks. Give you a national update, we're up to 4,400 schools running the programme here in England, and in Hertfordshire we're up to 110 schools, and hopefully we're in talks to increase that number shortly. When it comes to the benchmarks themselves, the average outside of a hub in England is 3.5 out of 8. And in careers hubs nationally, it's 4.4. And here in Hertfordshire, we're currently slightly above the curve at 5.10. But over the next couple of weeks, we will be recompleting Compass with the majority of our schools and colleges. So it'll be interesting to see where we are after Easter. This is at a quick glance, and it's showing the percentage of schools that have hit the benchmarks at 100%. So if you use the blue for Hertfordshire and the orange for England, you can see here in Hertfordshire, when it comes to Gatsby Benchmark 1, one of our slightly lower benchmarks, around 55% of schools have hit it at 100, and Gatsby Benchmark 3, 63% of our schools have hit it at 100. A little bit easier to read in this table, and you can see them highlighted out. So one of the reasons why we've picked to do the workshop today is to try and boost Gatsby Benchmark 1 and 3 achievement here in Hertfordshire. We're actually targeted around Gatsby Benchmark 1 particularly, so that's one of our most important benchmarks to try and help schools and colleges with. When it comes to the actual benchmarks themselves, done a little bit of sub-benchmark analysis. Thank you to Gareth for helping with this. So looking at all the different aspects of the benchmarks, these include, is the careers programme written down? Is it approved by governors? Is it backed by the senior leadership team? Has it got resources funded and allocated to it? Is it regularly monitored? Has it got strategic and operational elements? Is it on the website? Is the information there for students, for teachers and for employers? And we'll be covering that in a bit more detail today, as that's some of the areas where it's a little bit lower here in Hertfordshire for teachers and employers. Is the information on the website for parents and carers? Is the programme evaluated every 3 years? And is there feedback from teachers, students, employers, parents and carers? And particularly today, we'll be looking at employers, parents and carers. And has your school or college got a careers leader? So that's some of the sub-benchmark analysis for Hertfordshire. And you can see the percentage of schools achieving that at 100% on the right-hand side. And then highlighted in red is obviously the areas where it's a little bit lower, which we will focus slightly more on today. When it comes to Gatsby Benchmark 3, a little bit later in the session, I'll be looking at those sub-benchmarks. So that's around raising aspirations, challenging gender stereotypes, keeping systematic records on students, enabling pupils to have access to their experience information, collect and maintain data for up to 3 years on destinations for year 11, 12s, 13s, and year 14 equivalents, and share data with local authority, as well as providing provision for students, including those with SEN. And again, you can see in red that pupils can access information about experiences and collect and maintain data for up to 3 years are the areas where we need a little bit more work and support. So they are where we're going to concentrate some of today's efforts. So what is looked for to meet Gatsby Benchmark 1? Well, this is all about the Stable Careers Programme. So it's making sure that every school or college has a programme that's embedded. It's also on the school website and backed by senior leadership team, and that it's up to date. So you may have a programme on the website, but making sure that the programme and your strategy are up to date and in date. So there's some of the key things we'll be looking at around Gatsby Benchmark 1. That strategic careers plan, does it include a vision? Have you got a review process? Have you got some strategic priorities, and have you got action plans behind those to help you implement them? Is your careers programme progressive, going on in each year group from year 7 up to year 13 if your provision goes up to that age group, with some intent and some evaluation? And when you evaluate, do you plan, collect, review and then act on that evaluation? And we'll be giving lots of examples of different ways of doing evaluation and links to resources and templates to be able to do that easier. When it comes to getting sort of the house in order for each school and college, on the right-hand side of the page here, this is kind of the key things that we look for careers leaders to be doing. So particularly those of you who are newer to role, or you've come into role mid-year, which we know there are a number of you on the call today who've done that. These are the kinds of things where it comes to your careers programme that your enterprise coordinator and enterprise advisor can help you with in meetings. So careers programme overview on the website with information and activities happening in each year group. A programme and policy that's shared and approved by senior leadership team and governors, which is on the website and in date. An introduction to careers with a vision, naming the careers leader and their contact details. Having a careers policy in the careers section, and having what's known as the Baker Clause or access statement on your website. And highlight that the programme is for students, for parents, teachers and employers to be part of. And we've got some templates to help with that. When it comes to your careers programme, we're looking for components and features within your programme. So the components will be that there's something happening between year 7 up to year 13, or as high as your provision goes. There's information around careers in the curriculum, labour market information, experiences with employers, encounters with apprenticeship providers, further higher education providers, and there's some personal guidance going on with the level 6 qualified advisor, making sure that your programme is progressive, it's informed by different stakeholders, and you're evaluating it and adapting it as you go. The Gatsby benchmarks have been around for a number of years now. and they help us give real structure to careers programs here in England and tell us how to organise the delivery. They give us that good skeleton and those good benchmarking tools. And then the new CDI framework gives us that learning outcomes of what that could look like. And the CDI framework is linked on Gatsby Benchmark, part of the HOP website, with all these resources on the right-hand side to help you. And we've got a number of schools in Hertfordshire using the CDI framework already, particularly with sixth form. And then we've also got services for young people who are doing a free CDI audit at the moment. So do reach out to your local service for young person advisor to help you with that. When it comes to an example of a careers programme, we've also got on HOP an example of an overview. So you've got the year groups down one side, the activities that are running, the term in which they're happening, and then mapping those to which Gatsby benchmark. And then over time, we're starting to see schools also mapping some of their activities to the CDI framework pillars. This is great to update this every academic year, have a mixture of virtual and face-to-face, and then starting to integrate the CDI framework as you maybe go into next academic year. There's templates on HOP in our new Gatsby benchmark section, and there's a link to that here on this slide that will take you directly to there. A number of you are using the Careers and Enterprise visual overview on the left-hand side of this page, or you've got career journeys that you've adapted, which are nice visual representations. It makes it easy for any stakeholder, from a head teacher to a parent to a student, to understand. And then on the right-hand side of this page is a snapshot of a template that we've got for creating your careers website, so that it's got a policy, it's got a vision, it's got a program and the name careers leader. So that's just a little part of that. There's a full document to help you with any schools that are working towards that. But here in Hertfordshire, we've got in the tens of great examples of schools' websites. And I've got Julie Stevenson will be talking a little bit later on the call, but this is just a bit of a quick snapshot of Presdale's website. I love their use of tabs for the different year groups. I like that they've got quite a lot of visuals on there, from the learning journey through to students out on work experience. It brings the website to life. They have their access policy, their careers program, and they also have their careers newsletter on there. So Presdale's website's definitely worth having a look and having a click and play around with to gain ideas. Bob from Nobel School has just passed the Quality in Careers Standard Award in the last couple of days, which we're really happy for. Well done, Bob. And Nobel School's website has benefited from going through the Quality in Careers Standard with many improvements happening to their website. You can see it's really clear there. They've got their statement. They've got information for employers, information for parents. They've got a separate section and Google Docs and things like that for staff. And it's a really functionable website. It's really easy to follow and use. And then just there's so many other examples I could give, but I like the layout of Bushy Meads School one, where it's got drop downs for different age groups, say Key Stage 3, Key Stage 4, Key Stage 5. They've got their compass evaluations on there, destinations information, which we'll come to in Gatsby Benchmark 3. And it's got their provider access statement and their program as well, with their name careers leader. So nice and easy to follow. Chris and I were on the Chauncey website yesterday, and quite a few schools are starting to have careers as one of the main tabs on their landing page for the whole school website. And Chauncey's one of those schools that does that as well. So there's lots of different websites to look at, but I just thought I'd pull out those 3 examples as ideas for those of you developing yours. Then examples of how the CDI framework is starting to be used. You've got the learning pillars on the left-hand side, and then I've just pulled out an example from Key Stage 3 and the learning outcomes there. This school has got an example of its vision, and then some of the information insight that it's using, the data it's pulling, and what they're trying to work on is free school meal absenteeism and working around how high their level of free school meal students are, and particularly looking at Gatsby Benchmark 7 is a priority for them at the moment. So it's just some examples there of how the CDI framework is starting to pull into careers programs. So when it comes to your strategic plan, it's maybe pulling that down into 3 areas: the how, the why, and the what. So how is the careers program itself, things going on in each year group, how it's evaluated and monitored over timescales. The why is the vision, and then the what is the impact case studies. So as activities are happening, pulling in evaluation and pulling in good practice and good examples of impact. Evaluation, I've tried to pull together here to help with particularly some of the areas where Hertfordshire are trying to work on, including employer evaluation and parent evaluation, for examples. But this is a few different ways that you can look at evaluation, and then I've pulled together like a template as well in a later slide. So when it comes to this, it's thinking about how you're using Unifrog, how you're using things like Compass Plus, to look at data, destinations information, key groups such as special students, pupil premium, free school meals, etc. Then looking at how you can do your evaluation. So things like surveys, you've got focus groups that could perhaps be led by an enterprise advisor. Things like the Hertfordshire Skills Framework have got surveys within those and audits. You've got Future Skills Questionnaire, which is something new on Compass Plus. And then you've got intended and actual destinations. So in Hertfordshire, we've got the next step forms. So again, it's working in partnership with Services for Young People to look at what your students are interested in doing, having one-to-ones with senior leadership team, and then having time available with the careers advisor for certain students that you're either concerned about or they're unsure about their future next steps. Parents, you've got things like a survey around the careers program. You can survey parents at parents' evenings or get some students, head boy, head girl, and other students to go around and do surveys with parents while they're sitting waiting at parents' evenings. Focus group with EA, and we've also got live here in Hertfordshire a parents' apprenticeship survey, so please talk to your EC about that. It's still live at the moment. Thank you to all of those of you that have already filled that one out and sent out to your school parents. Teachers, we've got promoting and launching your program, so maybe having some inset time or a staff meeting. You can also do audits and things around Gatsby Benchmark 4 in curriculum time and in meetings. Again, teachers could be involved in a focus group with the enterprise advisor to look at the school program, what's good, what could be improved. And again, there's also a teacher apprenticeship survey live at the moment here in Hertfordshire. And then finally, employers, you've got post-work experience surveys, post-events, such as mock interviews, careers fairs, and then that EA support, who can be that on-tap kind of advice around the programme and shaping and forming it. When you get to the end of the academic year, that you've got your general reviews. So you've got things like checking the website's up to date and the policy, thinking about what staff development you'd like to work on next academic year, feeding back to senior leadership team on performance, what's the school's strengths, what are the areas for development, and then looking at things like destinations data. So usually around January, February time onwards, the destinations data becomes available from those that left at the end of August. So reviewing maybe what percentage are going into apprenticeships and looking at destinations data and helping that to inform your programme and also that extra support for the key groups. So when it comes to evaluation, I suppose it's about having your programme, delivering the activities, collecting some evaluation data, having a look at that evidence, and then reviewing, reflecting, and then deciding what you're going to continue with, what you're going to change, and what you might stop as well that hasn't quite hit this year. Try something different. And then I like this example here where it gives you different types of feedback and evaluation. So things like post-it notes, it can be online polls, it could be things like quizzes, surveys, focus groups, case studies, and then also looking at data evaluation like Compass, Compass Plus and destinations data. So lots of different avenues there to explore. And what we've been showing you today is available on the Gatsby Benchmark 1 section of HOP, with more information going on next week. As we move on to Gatsby Benchmark 3, this is about addressing the needs of each pupil. And with this, we're looking at raising aspirations, we're looking at challenging gender stereotypes, keeping records of what students are doing careers-wise, and then enabling them to have access to their record of what careers activities they've been involved in while they've been at school or college. And it's also a little bit about destinations data and tracking and monitoring destinations data, and then utilising that to inform your programme. When it comes to the sub-benchmark analysis, particularly in Hertfordshire, it's about students having access to their experiences and collecting and maintaining data for 3 years. And we've got loads of schools that do a lot of these other sub-benchmarks really well, like raising aspirations, bringing in alumni to do talks, challenging gender stereotypes, things like International Women's Day events, and keeping the records through Compass Plus and things like Unifrog. We've got really good relationships here in Hertfordshire with sharing data between the local authority, schools and colleges, and also getting services for young people to come in and deliver extra support to special students as well. So these are some of the things that we'll look at now. So when it comes to this benchmark, when it comes to things like collecting and maintaining data for 3 years and enabling pupils to have access to it, we're going to talk a little bit more about that in detail. So I'm going to break this down into sort of 3 areas: local authority, school and DFE when it comes to destinations data. So the local authority have a statutory duty to track destinations for all young people as they are at the end of year 11, year 12 and the end of year 13. And that annual survey happens each year, and then that data ends up going onto the gov.uk website with a bit of a time lapse on it. And education providers and schools, colleges are then sort of sharing data to help that process happen back to the local authority, in this case, services for young people. Schools collect and maintain the data, they share it with the local authority, and they provide sixth form lists, lists of university destinations, information on students who've gone into apprenticeships, and that kind of data sharing backwards and forwards with services for young people, the local authority. And again, we have lots of schools that use things like banners to show destinations data. It's mentioned on websites. And we've also got examples of charts and things like that. When it comes to individual records of students, the kind of things that's needed for that information to be kept on each individual student is when they've been on work experience, they've gone work shadowing, they've been to an employer talk, they've been for a face-to-face guidance appointment, and they've been to a careers fair, and they've maybe done some work or volunteering and relevant extracurricular activities. It kind of builds that virtual record of achievement for them. Unifrog and things like that do that, and Start Profile can help students do that individually. And then some of those things there, Compass Plus can help schools monitor and then publish reports to give back to the students, say if they're about to apply to a degree apprenticeship, to help them with that. When it comes to the destination side of the coin, the next step forms here in Hertfordshire are really, really important to get students in tutor time, perhaps guided by their tutors to fill in their next steps, sharing that information back with the local authority, but then also maybe RAG rating students where they're on grade and they're on track to a destination versus students that are maybe a little bit behind or under the grade expectation and maybe haven't made their application or have an idea of their intended destination. And then those students can be sort of put forward for extra mentoring from senior leadership team, but also extra careers guidance appointments. Then at the end of that process, when it comes to the actual destinations, information's been collected and shared, you then get to the point where it can be published on the school website, maybe in a chart form, and those things like pop-ups and things that get shared at parents' evenings. It's also an opportunity to build contacts with the students as the alumni, and for them to then give back to the careers programme itself. So that's a real opportunity to engage the alumni. For those of you using services for young people, you can then get things like destinations reports that show the percentage that have gone on to school, college, apprenticeships, or become NEET, sadly. And then there's also more information that gets refined down onto individual courses and things like that. So if you are using services for young people, this is something at this time of the year that you could gain back and use on your website if needed. But yeah, the Alumni Network is probably something that a lot of you do quite well. Others, it's something that you want to work on, and they can really inform the programme, really inspire students who can see and hear from people that have been on the same journey as them just a year or two before. And then things like challenging gender stereotypes and raising aspirations. There's some great examples of that going on, and some of our guest speakers later will talk a little bit about that. Here's a quick slide around how to collect intended destinations data. It can go onto Compass Plus. It could be within the one-to-one appointment with your head of year or your senior leadership team, or with your careers advisor, could have access to Unifrog or access to Compass Plus to be able to input that. And then those kind of check-ins with the next step forms. Those are some of the ways where destinations data can be the pre-work done before the actual after they've left work. Just makes it a little bit easier. When you've got Compass Plus up and running, those of you have, and others that may consider signing up today, you can then track individuals' interests, intended destinations. You can pull out reports, maybe look at how are the pupil premium students doing destinations wise, how are the free school meal students doing, or the special students, etc., etc. And you can pull out tracking how you're doing. At the moment, we've got 91% of our pupils, so then you can then refine that down to the 9% that you're still trying to find out what they're doing, and liaise with services for young people to help you with that. This all helps with quality assurance, it helps with building your alumni network, and it also helps with informing your programme and tailoring your programme. So finally, before we hand over to Jenny, this is kind of pulling together the different elements of Gatsby Benchmark 3. When it comes to sixth form, I think here in Hertfordshire, we're all really good at sharing information about our local sixth form consortiums. For further colleges, it's about the taster days, the open days, them coming in to do assemblies or virtual assemblies, virtual tours. With universities, some of the virtual open days are unbelievable now, where they take you around every aspect of the university, halls of residence, the rooms, the lecture theatres. You meet students, you meet lecturers, you get to see all the different parts of the campuses. Everything is very, very thorough, and live Q&A sessions with students, very thorough now, but it's all about the tracking of that. So getting students to track that on Unifrog, or if they're going out to have time to go and visit a university face-to-face, it's again tracking that and get that put onto Unifrog or Compass Plus. Uni taster days is also a good way for students to find out when the taster days are happening. When it comes to apprenticeships, we've got a great relationship with Amazing Apprenticeships and the Ask service here in Hertfordshire, and they've now got an unlimited offer of coming in to do talks, not only to students, but now also to teachers and parents as well. So Katie Duran and Natalie Phillips are our local links for that. Please do reach out to them. And if you're struggling a little bit with independent training providers, have a word with your enterprise coordinator, and they can put you in touch with some of the local ones, such as Keats for animal care and horticulture, and SkillNet. Just two examples there for motor vehicle. And something that those of you that use Compass Plus might start using is there's now a new future skills questionnaire, which helps you sort of find out more about what skills your students have, but also a little bit about their intended destinations. So lots of useful information, and all of these slides and all of this information will go on to HOP next week, and a lot of it is already on there, and this video will go up next week as well. this is what the new HOP section looks like. And if there's so many of you doing such great best practice, please do send through examples of what you are doing, particularly around Gatsby Benchmark 1 and 3 off the back of today's workshop. And we'd love to include those on the HOP section to help other schools and colleges as well. So I'm going to stop sharing there. And Jenny, I'm going to get you to come on screen, and if you need to share your screen as well, or I'm happy to show your slides, whatever's easiest.
No, that's great, Steve. I'll share my screen if I can. Just hold on.
Thank you.
Okay, I did have the share screen up. Oh, it's gone. There it is. Okay, just hold on. Sorry, please be patient with me. IT is not always my strong point, but I've got it here. So hi, my name is Jenny Longstaff, and I'll introduce myself properly and what I'm about, basically, and what my organisation does. I work for an organisation called Complete Careers, and we basically do lots of services. We're based in Lincolnshire. Can you see my screen now by any chance, Steve? Can you give me a thumbs up if you can see it?
Yeah, it's just come through. Thanks, Jenny.
Okay. We're based in Lincolnshire, but we work now across the country, and partly because of COVID and the way working has changed, it's been enabled us to kind of reach out to schools across the country. In fact, abroad, we get a lot of interest from international schools. You can hear the sound of roaring planes. Actually, I live right next to where the Red Arrow's based, so that's them flying over and probably doing their heart in the sky. They've been practicing a lot recently. So I was a careers leader, sort of a middle leader within a school for 4 years before joining Complete Careers as a careers advisor. I'm a level 7 qualified advisor, and I offer guidance in local schools. But I'm also an assessor for the Quality and Careers Standard Award. So we are going to, in the next half an hour, basically explore quality awards. What are they? Why might you want to work towards one? And then introduce particularly Career Mark, which is the quality award that we work with. Its features, the process from start to finish, the standards, and then the costs. And hopefully then we'll have time for kind of some comments and questions. So there we go. So why schools work towards the standard? Well, this is the big question, because actually just listening to Steve now, I kind of almost felt palpitations. I felt like a sense of stress from when I was a careers leader in the school, and there is so much to consider. I've assessed about probably a dozen schools in total, and no 2 schools are managed in the same way. And I have some careers leaders who have 3 full days a week allocated to careers, some with careers guidance qualifications, some with admin teams beneath them. And then I have some careers leaders who I work with who might only have 1 hour or 2 hours a week allocated to careers. So it is for some people a large undertaking, and it's something, certainly your time, however much time you have, your time is precious, and you'll be thinking, is this something that's worthwhile to work towards? So why schools work towards the award? I mean, this is something that I've put together because I think really schools come at the award for 3 different reasons. They want recognition of the careers provision that they are proud of. So they want to celebrate, basically. They want, they're really happy with what they do. They really want that kind of, cherry on the cake. They want that recognition from their parents, from the governing body, from the senior leadership, and maybe for their own professional development as well. They see it as something really good to work towards. The second reason schools come at it sometimes is because they want to use the process as an opportunity to develop their provision in the school and get sort of, external scrutiny and basically consultancy, I guess, on how they're doing and what could be improved. It's really important to stress that the quality and standard, we're not looking for perfection in schools. We're not looking for necessarily to meet 100% of all the benchmarks. A standard, as we view it, as being a level which you need to get above to meet a standard. So we're not looking for perfection, but we're looking for good practice. And I'm going to talk much more about what that means. And the final reason I think schools work towards it is to give a greater voice for improved resourcing within the school, so advocacy. So if you know, for example, that your careers, the provision is not being resourced as well as it could be, if you feel that the management or the governing body aren't really engaging with careers, then this is a chance for someone external to come into the school and actually make that case with you and for you. As part of the process, at the end of the assessment, you will be given a report with what we found out, and that will have 4 to 6 recommendations in about what we think needs improving in your school. Now, it's likely, as the careers leader who knows your provision extremely well, 2, if not more of those will be things that you're aware of that you need already. So some schools use this almost as a tool, or careers leaders use this as a tool to help things happen. The fourth reason I could put in there is you're part of a MAT and it comes down from up above that you've got to do this award, because that's quite common that we have large MATs who might want to take 10 or 20 schools through the award. And some of the schools are, quite reluctant or maybe just not at the right point. But hopefully that won't be any of you, and you'll feel if this is something you want to work towards, then hopefully it's something that you will come to of your own. Right. Oh, I'm just trying to, oh, there we go. So again, one of the other reasons that people will work towards the award is that is the recommendation. So from the DfE guidance of 2021, the original 2018 and 2021, there's some information here about working towards a quality and career standard, but that final highlighted sentence is that we strongly recommend that all schools and college work towards a single national quality and career standard. So it's being seen by the DfE that actually working towards one of these awards is going to really help your provision. And although I don't have up-to-date information on it at the moment, because we've done sort of compass analysis on the schools that we've worked at, rather like the schools that are part of the hub, having higher compass schools that have engaged in the quality and career standard process with us with complete career mark, do achieve 1 to 1.5 benchmarks more than a school that doesn't have it. So it is certainly something that the DfE sees as being a valuable part of your improvement in your provision. I've got a couple of quotes there from Ofsted as well, and I think obviously Ofsted is taking a keener interest in careers, which is great. This seems to be very patchy in so much as, I don't think many Ofsted inspectors necessarily have are careers professionals in their own right, although increasingly a number of them have been involved in career management in the past. And so to some degree, some schools may come at the award thinking, okay, well, if I've got a deep dive quality and career standard award where careers professionals have come into my school and thoughtfully, considered my provision, then Ofsted will sort of accept that. And I think that to some extent is certainly true, that Ofsted recognise that the awarding bodies are giving a lot of scrutiny to careers, perhaps not to the same extent they would, just because of the time that they have within the school. So what is Career Mark now? So I'm going to talk to you a little bit more depth about Career Mark. So the Quality and Career Standard Award is the overarching national body. Career Mark is one of the awarding bodies that sits underneath it. So it's a bit like GCSE, Quality and Career Standard is GCSE, Career Mark is EdExcel. And there's another one of your schools, I think recently has worked towards an award with another awarding body that's like the equivalent of AQA. There are, I think, about 12 of us that work across the country. Oh, sorry, there are 12 of us in the country. Many of those just work in specific regions like Career Southwest, but some of them are expanding. So if you're not interested in working towards the award with complete careers and our Career Mark approach, you can consider working for the award with another organisation. It's a little bit like the BBC. There are other awarding bodies that you can go to. So just consider that. But it's important saying this now, the Quality and Career Standard is fairly recent, but Career Mark was established in 1994, and that was before I left primary school. So this is some time ago, and it has its basis in the local authority and in connections and organisations like that, or in certainly the local authority. It's set up by people who have a very, very solid and historic knowledge of what good careers provision looks like. Now, hearing Steve talk earlier, obviously Gatsby is the new thing or comparatively new thing that is really hugely driving careers forward in schools, and it has had more impact than any other initiative for an awful long time. But it is one idea, and I'd imagine the Quality and Career Standard will exist when new ideas come along. And so, although we are fully aligned with the Gatsby benchmarks and we reference Gatsby throughout, we're also based on what we view and what the profession of careers professionals view as being good quality provision. So the second point there is a nationally available CEIG licensed awarding body for the Quality and Career Standard. And the third point there is a comprehensive development framework for CEIG. So it's a framework for how to improve and develop your provision. And when I talk to you about the process, you'll realise it's not just a one-off thing, it's really about improving over time. And it supports legislation, national standards and best practice. And there we go, 12 awarding bodies. So what is the likely impact of working towards a Quality and Career Standard Award? Well, the award process can take a significant amount of time if you want, or it can be done quite rapidly. But it's really about you improving and auditing your provision as you go along, addressing recommendations after the first report that you have, and continuously then improving with the support from the people who work at the company that you're using. So in the case of my company, all of the career mark assessors are either level 7 qualified guidance practitioners or have qualifications in career learning or careers leadership. We deliver on careers leadership and careers guidance workshops. So we are people who have been in the profession for quite some time and who can give you sort of really good insight into how you can improve your provision. So I'm going to talk to you now for the next sort of 10 minutes really about the process itself. And again, this will vary depending on what awarding body you go for, but there are similarities because we are kind of, there is a consistency across all of us, I should say. We're all kind of quality assured by the Quality and Career Standard. So in our case, there's 2 steps to the assessment, basically. Step 1 is that you create a portfolio assessment. So the portfolio assessment is when you complete grids against 4 different standards, and I'll talk to you about those in a minute. And this is where you complete that information, send it on to us, and if we are happy with the description of what is going on at your school, we then may move on to the stage 2, which is the second part of the process. And that is an on-site or virtual assessment. So the assessors will visit the institution either physically or remotely, and we will basically spend the day with your learners working out how effective your careers program is. So during the day, we would meet with, the careers leader, perhaps the head or a link governor, if that was appropriate, your enterprise advisor, even if you wanted to. But the vast majority of the day is just focusing on the learners. Now, we're not at that point looking kind of for checking up that you're doing what you said you've done. So we're not going to say, oh, do you remember that talk that the ASK did or that the RAF delivered? We're actually asking much softer questions just to ascertain if your careers program is working. So we're asking learners in year 7 and 8 what their strengths are, what subjects they like. In year 8 or year 9, how they're supported with their options, have they chosen well, are they aware of apprenticeship routes, are they aware in 10 and 11 particularly of other places they could go if you have a 6th form? Is that message getting through? And I suppose this is where we really focus on the impact on the learners in a way that originally perhaps Gatsby didn't. I think I can see from what Steve's doing now, actually, there's a lot more emphasis on quality assurance, but a lot of the things that Gatsby emphasizes is things being in place, things being there. So information being on the website, for example, or it being appropriate for teachers, or appropriate for teachers, appropriate for employers, appropriate for parents. What we're then looking at is, okay, so what, has anybody read that? Or not so much have you read it, but have you got that knowledge inside you? So we really are focusing on those learners and basically working out, are they effective career planners? We're not making sure that they've all got a career in place and a career vision, because as we know, that's not appropriate for a lot of young people. And actually being open-minded to opportunity, self-aware and proactive in researching different pathways, that's more important than actually having a plan laid out. Careers professionals, or if any of you have done the career leader training, you'll notice that difference between having a plan and being a good planner. And we're looking for your learners to be good planners, knowing where to go for help, having the right kind of mindset and attitude. So going back to the start then, when we're looking at those that evidence and the portfolio that you produce for us, we're looking at 4 standards. We're looking at how careers is managed in your school. So that's mainly Gatsby 1 and Gatsby 3. This is a rather large section to fill in terms of the paperwork, but what are your measures for planning, managing and integrating CIAG? The second strand we look at is advice and guidance. So how effective is the advice and guidance that you're offering? There's a difference between advice and guidance. Teachers, heads of year 11, heads of 6th form can offer advice and information. You may have careers coordinators who are level 3 qualified who can have those kind of conversations with learners. Guidance is something different. That's something that, is a qualification, a level 6 or 7 qualification. And it's about everybody in the school or people in the school being aware of when it's appropriate to refer learners for guidance. So again, like I'm saying, we're not looking always for perfection. It might be that not all your learners do receive a careers interview before the end of year 11. That's maybe not something you're able to resource at this point. But what we're looking for is very, very thoughtful processes of triage so that the right learners are being seen in a timely way, if maybe even more than once. And actually, in some ways, yes, we know meeting that 8th Gatsby benchmark is about virtually all students getting the guidance interview, but actually what we care about is the students being supported appropriately. And again, that's addressing the needs of each individual child, rather than necessarily going through the alphabet or going through form lists and seeing students in that kind of order. Next, we look at information. This is really quite a short section, but we're looking at what information platforms you use, how learners are also recording their learning comes a little bit in here as well. We're looking at platforms, for example, like Unifrog there, if you use them, Compass Plus, you might have an old-fashioned record of achievement. We're talking about which websites you send students to. Do you have a careers resource room? Are you using Show My Homework or Showbie in order to show careers learning in your lessons? Is information being talked about? Are the students having up-to-date LMI and their employer contact and that kind of thing? And then curriculum or career learning measures how effectively the curriculum supports the development of knowledge, skills and understanding. And this is probably the area that I think perhaps Gatsby is a little bit lighter on. Although it does say, you know, it's important to have a stable programme of careers learning, this is what we really do feel this is very important to look at the level of learning that's going on. That might be in collapsed timetable days, PSHE, tutor time. It might actually be far more subliminal than that. It might just be that the ethos of the school and the nature of the lessons that the students get across the curriculum are, you know, just very much supporting them to be, you know, very, very self-aware and proactive and independent in researching their career options. This is also careers across the curriculum. So whether learners are, you know, when we come to the school, we're asking learners, you know, are they aware of the kind of careers they could do with maths? What kind of skills are they getting from history? That kind of thing. And then the fifth measure, which is something you don't have to worry about per se, is the learner outcomes. So that's what we assess on the day. We evaluate the learner's knowledge, competence towards career planning. So you, to go back, are the ones who evidence these 4 delivery measures, and we are the one that looks at the output. So this is a little diagram to show you the process. If working towards a Quality and Career Standard Award is something you'd like to do, then this is the full process. So the first step you would do is sign up for membership, and I will talk to you about that. The next two areas here are kind of are optional in a way. We have a self-assessment tool when you can carry out an initial audit, but you may not feel that's necessary. You can also get a certificate of commitment from us that you are now working towards the Quality and Career Standard Award because you've pledged that you are going to start working towards it. You may do this initial audit and then you might action any gaps. And this is why the Quality and Career Standard process can take quite some time. Some schools will take a long time to look at their provision closely, make changes before they even start writing up the description of what that we need from them. Some schools are there already. They just want the award. They think that everything's in place. They complete the paperwork within a matter of weeks, and it's with us, and the assessment process moves forward. Some schools might take 18 months to 2 years to really slowly develop their program as they go along, in the hope of gaining the standard towards the end of an 18-month, 2-year period. So once you've actioned any gaps, you'd write the descriptions for each standard, and I'm going to show you those, and you gather the evidence that we need to work towards them. You then pull all that together into a portfolio and then submit your portfolio for assessment. So we have an assessment request form on our page. You would say, right, I've got everything ready and I'd like to plan an assessment. We like to have 8 weeks between that submission and an assessment, although that often gets shorter, particularly at very busy times of the year. And then the on-site or virtual assessment is arranged with the assessor, and they manage all that. It's then carried out. And then finally, the assessment report is written by the assessor. So that's a detailed report as to what we found about careers in the school or college, and then the award is issued. So as I said before, this will take any amount of time, depending on how much work you want to do following the audit. And so some schools can work towards this very rapidly and are quite impatient to acquire it quickly within a few months, and some schools will take quite some time to work towards it, and either is fine. The portfolio requires key evidence examples. So I'm going to talk to you about this in a moment, but we want to see not only a description of what's going on in school, but some evidence of that. And our members' websites, once you become a member, gives you a huge range of kind of advice about developing your program. But having said that, what I think is good about our approach is that we don't actually, although there is a lot of information out there, we don't overwhelm our careers leaders. We want the process to be kind of self-supporting and empowering for you. So the idea is that you should be able to have a go at it on your own or with support from the rest of your team. So what I've done here is just a quick print screen of an example of what we want you to fill in. So what I've done is looked at that first strand that we look at. Remember, there's management, curriculum or career learning, advice and guidance and information. Management is here. There's 8 boxes or 9 boxes, I believe, with regards to management. It's by far the biggest section. Information is just 2 boxes. Guidance is about 5 or 6. And basically it has what we would like you, the word limit for what we'd like you to complete, and a description. And as you can see here, it's linked into the Quality and Career Standard and the Gatsby Benchmarks. But if I go on to the next page, that is the same document, but basically the guidance document of how you complete it. So what we would say to careers leaders is really, you just need the blank document as such, and then this example document of what we want to see. Now, once again, it's not to be overwhelmed by this. We work with some schools who are very small, who know all their learners individually, who have a great careers team. And so their process for tracking and things like that might not be as good as a larger school. Every educational setting is very, very different. And you do know your learners best, and you do know how to manage them effectively. So don't be intimidated if there are certain things while reading this, you think, I'm not sure we do that, I'm not sure we do that. But some schools do. And like I said, the difference in provision is enormous. So that is the supporting document that you would need to complete. That is the document you need to complete, and that is your supporting document to help you. So once you have gained the award, you will receive a plaque, a certificate, and a full report, and then you have what's called a 2-year revalidation period. So you've met the standard, but you need to maintain the standard. If you wish to maintain the standard, you need to be looking at doing this every other year. If you get 2 consecutive revalidations, this is at the bottom there, you'll gain a gold plaque. So we have gold and platinum awards, but they're not for the best standard necessarily, they're for longevity of the award. And the revalidation process is just a half-a-day assessment. It's significantly cheaper. And really we're looking at how you've improved in that time and if you've addressed those recommendations from that first assessment. But we are finding increasingly, I'm dealing with a great number of schools at the moment who are working for revalidation, but whose career staff has completely changed in the 2 years. And I'm very aware of this. There's such a lot of movement within careers leadership at the moment. And so we will obviously support you again, or your school, if there's been a change of personnel along the way. So these are the costs associated with Career Mark. So a first assessment is £1,275. That includes your membership and your first award. And then you'd have to budget, if you want to maintain the award, an additional cost for £160 of membership and £750 every time you want to revalidate. So I'm very aware that is quite a large part of some schools' budgets. I've known schools have budgets as small as £2,000. Some schools are giving it consideration at the moment because currently their work experience budget has perhaps not been used for this academic year, and they do have some additional money. I think Unifrog is being, bought into a great deal more, possibly because of that. It might be something you consider doing. And then I certainly know from my point of view as a careers leader, even though I didn't ever have money in my careers budget to do it, because that had to be spent on work experience placements, etc., the school really valued it as an award. And so the money was found from areas such as marketing and things like that in order to maintain it. So if it's something that you want to work towards and senior leadership are keen on, then hopefully it's something that you can budget for. But I do realise it's not, it's not inconsiderable when you're talking about quite small budgets. So the 2 questions I get the most is, am I ready and have I got the time? So but my main job really is I suppose, well, being an assessor, is to sort of support careers leaders through this process. So take an initial kind of chat with them, talk about their career provision, what it's like, whether they're at the point where they could start working towards the standard. And that's the question they're asking all the time, am I ready? So we're not looking for perfection, we're looking for schools to meet a certain standard. And if you would like to chat with me about that, I'm more than happy to arrange a half-an-hour one-on-one with you and just give you a rough idea of whether you are at the point of gaining the award, if I feel there's enough going on. And it's really important to say this, that once the process of accreditation begins, if we feel at the point that you submit your evidence to us that there just isn't enough going on, that actually, the provision is just not quite good enough for you to get the standard, we will tell you at that point, the sort of desktop point when we've just got your information in. We don't come into a school to assess you and set you up to fail. Okay, so we would say, actually, do you know what, you need to improve these 3 areas here before you can realistically gain the standard. It's very, very seldom that we would go into a school and the learners would just be blank faced and we'd feel, actually, do you know what, on assessment day they haven't met the standard. It's much, much more likely that we'd see that in advance. You won't be failed, it would just be an advice to take longer over it, and that money that you'd given you would keep with us. We are really about, and the people I work for, ex-public sector, they are very much just about improving provision for schools and making careers better in schools. And so we'll help you to do that. And then the last question is, have I got the time to do it? Now, the time it takes to do it in terms of weeks and months varies entirely on how much you wish to develop your provision as you go along. But the time in terms of actually completing that paperwork, because I offer consultancy with schools sometimes where I actually do sit down and write the paperwork with them, I would say a day and a half to 2 full days is what you would need to complete that and then collect your pieces of evidence together. Now, because it's online particularly, you can, obviously your policy you would attach into the shared folder or your career learning schedule. So if you haven't got a lot to actually improve upon and everything's up to date and in a good place, I think you're looking at a day and a half to 2 days to do that. Now, obviously most people will do an hour here, 2 hours there. So it might be spaced over several months or weeks, but I just think for me, that's a bit of a good guide to tell you in hours, that's how much you need. I've seen some schools where the careers leader will take half a day and say, look, I need to get out of school that day and just work on it. It's up to you to maybe perhaps negotiate how that can be done. I've seen other schools as well who have given the advice and guidance to their careers advisor to do, allocated them some time to do that. They've done the management section and maybe they've had some help with the head of PSHE on the career learning section. And so you can get help and support for it as well. So I know I've gone so fast through that, Steve. I'm just about on my time at 3 o'clock now. But if you want to find out more, please go onto our website and consider signing up for membership. If you want to sign up towards the award today or in the next few weeks, that will be brilliant. If you would like to have a deeper chat with me about your provision and working towards the award, then please email either my address, which is at the start of the slides, or inquiries@completecareers.com, and it'll be forwarded straight to me. And as I say, most days I'll have 2 or 3 one-on-one chats with careers leaders across the country working towards the award. And then I've given you there the actual link to the Quality and Careers website. So if you want to check out some of the other awarding bodies and how they do things, then absolutely please do that. It might be that another awarding body works well for you. It might be that you think that actually, do you know what, Career Mark with Complete Careers is the best one for your school. Okay, Steve, is that all right? I'm happy to take some questions now. I can see numbers going up in the chat, but I haven't actually read anything. Do you want to read them out, or are you?
Let me have a look. Anybody got any questions for Jenny around the Quality and Careers standard? Either pop them in the chat or please feel free to come off mute and ask questions. Jenny, I know it ranges for each school, how long it takes to do it and how far they've got to come depending on where they are in initial audit kind of stages. But would you give like an average of how long it takes schools to do the system from start to finish?
The average has been worked out, and this is just pre-COVID, of being 18 months. Bear in mind, your membership normally only lasts 2 years, though we are relaxed on that. So it's unlikely to go over 2 years. But as I say, a lot of schools I'm speaking to now are like, oh, this is something we'd like to achieve in the next few months. So it really is up to you. And remember that slide I talked about why you're coming at the Careers Quality Award. If you're coming at it for that first reason of wanting recognition for what you're doing, you're probably going to want to work towards it quickly. If you're deciding to work towards it because it's a much longer process for you and it's actually part of improving your provision within a structure, then it might take significantly longer. Yeah, so I'm sorry there's no clear answer to that, Steve. The average apparently is 18 months. Debbie has just said there that is the cost the same regardless of school size. It generally is, Debbie, although if you have an extremely small school, we sometimes do, particularly special schools, we do sometimes give them slightly discounted rates. But actually on the day we would speak to the amount of evidence we would look at would be the same probably for a small school or a big school. And if on the day we speak to groups of 6 to 8 learners from different year groups, of which you can choose those learners yourself. So we'd like to have a range of ability, ethnicity and gender, but whether it's 6 to 8 kids from a year group of 50, like the school I used to work at, or it's 6 to 8 kids from a year group of 300, in terms of our workload, it's comparative really. And I think that's probably, just to say one thing that is really hard for careers leaders, is that actually, you know, generally the provision is obviously the more students you have, the more guidance you've got to offer or something. But in terms of delivering a career or designing a careers program, delivering it, writing a policy, having speakers in, the size of your school can sometimes not make a huge difference to the amount of work you have to put in, which you know, so basically what I'm saying is a large school might have much better resourcing in terms of a careers provision, and small schools can sometimes really lose out in that way.
There's an extra question. Sorry, there's just an extra question that's come in saying, if you're new to role, when would you feel would be a good time to go towards the award?
Okay, that's a good question, Jane. I guess it depends. It's not so much how new you are to the role. I think it's not a bad thing for you to start with within your first year. It's more how the provision was before you came in. So if you come in with a very, very strong provision, but you're new to the role, I'm dealing with a school at the moment who is handing over to a new careers leader, and the new careers leader is taking on Career Mark and the Quality and Career Standard as she begins. So we are supportive, and you could work at it immediately, but it's more about the fact that, have your predecessors meant that there's a good provision in place? I think that's probably more of the consideration. But if you want to talk to me about that, Jane, I'm happy to set up, you know, just a free chat. We do offer consultancy, just to say quickly, but you know, it's something that some schools do, I think, sometimes more because they actually want to have that time ring fenced, and I think it's $250 for half a day and $350 for a full day. But the vast majority of schools work to it independently, and that's kind of, we want it to be self-supporting. We don't want it to be so dense that it's something that you need that consultancy for, if that makes sense.
Jenny, that's been absolutely fantastic. If any other questions
so
filter through via email, I'll forward them on to you.
Please send them on to me. Absolutely. I'm going to dodge out now, Steve, but thank you so much for having me, everybody. And it's really nice to see the Hertfordshire Careers Hub. It's not an area I know very well, so I wish I was actually there with you in person, but sadly not. Okay, thanks very much. Good luck with the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
Take care. Thanks, Jenny. Bye. So that's been great to hear from Jenny, who's been a former careers leader and is now a quality and career standard assessor. We're now going to hand over to Sarita to talk a little bit about a school who's gone through the process, and then on to Judith. And then we'll move on to benchmark 1 and 3 best practice, where we'll hear from Julie, Kate, and hopefully Sophie, because I know Sophie's got someone off sick at home at the moment. So hopefully Sophie will come in, but at least Julie and Kate. So Sarita, over to you, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. It was really interesting. I kind of came in on the back end of the talk from Jenny. So it was a different company that I kind of signed up with. It was the CSW group. So I had a slightly different experience. I'm going to just give you my perspective. Not all of it is positive. So yeah, I've just kind of written down some advantages and disadvantages. So I'll go through the advantages. So I think one of the reasons why I thought it was a really good idea to do the investing in careers was basically it validates what you're doing, and so I felt that was really important, that it kind of confirms what you're doing is the kind of right thing that you should be doing. So I thought that was a really good experience to kind of go through that. It also raises the profile of careers in the school, so it just kind of brings everything to the surface. You know, people are having those conversations more often, and I thought that was a really good to kind of regenerate kind of talking about careers. So that worked really well at our school, and the assessment day wasn't half as bad as I thought it would be. Unfortunately, a bit like Ofsted, I think the build up to it was far worse than the actual assessment day. I thought the assessment day was really good. It was really nice to see everyone pulled together to talk about careers, the students, governors, SLT. So I thought that was really, really, a really good experience. So that worked really well at our school. In terms of the disadvantages, so the things that I didn't really like. So I didn't like the online platform. I'd done the qualification previously, and it was the paper system. Again, advantage, disadvantage to both systems, but the platform that I used was particularly clunky. And the thing that I really disliked is that you had to complete one strand before the next strand was then opened up for you to then submit the evidence. So that was a bit of a nightmare at times. And it was very time consuming, I think, because I'm a classroom teacher as well. So it was when I was able to have a free period to kind of work on this, and it was difficult to get onto the platform and to load the information. So I think that was particularly challenging at times. And the other thing, I think it is worth kind of weighing up. Again, I have an hour a week for careers, and it's whether I use the time to actually put the evidence together, or whether I spend the time actually planning careers events and careers activities. So I think that is something that you have to consider when you are actually kind of working towards this investor careers. I think it is very, very time consuming. So Jenny was a brilliant assessor. I'm definitely going to do the one that she was speaking about. The one that I did, my assessor was brilliant, but I didn't actually get to connect with her until towards the end, which is a bit of a shame. She was very supportive on the day as well. But it would have been nice to have some support, I think, through the process, rather than kind of really kind of being on my own through the process. And then, Steve, did you want me to talk about benchmark 1 and 3 a little bit more about kind of what I do and our experiences?
Yeah, just a quick snapshot would be lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, so in terms of the program, I think, again, doing the rest of the career just kind of makes you review your program, and it's something that I feel that you have to constantly update and change. I've certainly found reviewing and evaluating the things we're doing on a regular basis, I think, really do feed into that program. And then addressing students' needs. So I'm just going to give you a really quick example. I organised some National Careers Week talks for students, and we had the longer talks for year 12 and the shorter ones for year 11. And I felt it was really important to get the feedback, because the year 11s could see that when they get into year 12, they can have these longer talks, and just asking them about who they want to hear from, and whether they felt that what was kind of needed in the talks, whether the Q&A should be longer, whether the presentation should be longer. So I felt that was really good to kind of get some evaluation around that in terms of kind of addressing student needs. So that's kind of my bit. Thank you, Steve.
Brilliant. Thank you for joining us, Sarita. And I think it's really good to hear directly from someone that's been on the journey, and it gives it that extra Hertfordshire context. And like we say, there's various different providers you can go with, and it's quite nice to hear a bit of a balance from different providers, and then it might influence people going to a different one. Judith, I know you're on the call and you're coming on next, and I think you went with a different one as well. So it's, again, nice to hear. But thank you very much, Sarita, and I'll hand over to Judith now. Thanks.
Hello, yes. We went with the Investor in Careers through Careers Southwest. So a slightly different experience, I think, from what the lady was describing earlier, Jenny was describing. I think I probably fell into the second category that she spoke about, using the award to develop our programme within the school. It was a rather long drawn out process, because we sort of crossed over when they revamped the framework that they did the assessment by. So we went from doing the paper-based assessment, which we did for stage 1, and then they changed the model of the whole assessment to incorporate the Gatsby benchmarks. And we had to move over to the online portfolio, which meant that we had to do the stage 1 assessment all over again. So I had a sort of slightly unusual experience. And then we were due to do our assessment in the sort of spring of 2020. And of course, that then got caught up with the whole of COVID. So we ended up doing our final assessment in the September of 2020. And we didn't get the full award. We got the Making Good Progress towards, which was disappointing, but the assessor was very complimentary. So afterwards, lots of people I spoke to said that the assessor we had was quite strict, and they were surprised that we didn't get the award, but then that's life. So I don't know whether anybody has any questions, because I know I'm quite aware of time. But did anybody have any questions that they particularly wanted to ask?
Thank you, Judith. And I think it's good again to hear, you went through it in the middle of lockdown, you went through 2 different systems, you're hearing it, how it really was, and hopefully things have settled down a little bit now. And I know that some of the other guys on the call, there are others that are doing it at the moment. But yeah, thank you, Julie. If anyone asks any questions or adds anything into the chat, please feel free to reply to those, Judith. But what we'll do is we'll move on to Julie Stevenson. But thank you very much, Judith. That was really useful. Julie, are you able to come off mute and onto camera?
I am. I'm on camera and I'm off mute.
Thank you, Julie. Nice to see you.
Okay, I'll just spend a few minutes just talking through what we do at Presdales. We are actually currently going through the Quality and Careers Standard with Investor in Careers as well. I agree with what Sarita said. It's a bit clunky, but it's a good auditing tool, and hopefully I'm on the last leg now. So COVID did get a little bit in the way. So yeah, Gatsby Benchmark 1, main thing from what I've been doing really is just making the website really zing, I suppose, and getting all the information on there that you need. So it's really sort of packed full of everything. We also have a student-facing Google site, mainly for A-level students, which I think Steve will probably give these slides to you, but you can have a look at it. It's got all the latest sort of apprenticeship vacancies, everything about UCAS, everything about careers that they could have a look at. So that's a little bit more student-facing. Unifrog, I think, has been amazing. It's okay, yes, it is expensive, but I think it ticks so many boxes, and they're always developing it for the next thing. They've got a placement portal now which can do all your work experience admin on it. So yes, I think that's been really useful. From year 7 upwards, we have form time sessions on Unifrog, doing things with interactions and competencies, and looking at different things for them to put in their virtual lockers. You get feedback, and really good feedback from that as well, which is all online, all in the portal. Using alumni, we also have a quite strong alumni group through Future First. They sort of manage that for us. So we've done quite a lot in Careers Week with alumni talks to all years during the lunchtime and lecture theatre, where they can sign up for them, and then we put those on their Unifrog locker as well. And they came into some workshops with the year 12s. It's really important to obviously have strong SLT. I'm actually on SLT, which obviously is very useful, and careers lead as well. But having a good careers governor and having a lot of support from SLT. And then, yeah, we've got some really good alumni displays in subject areas, which I think art have got an amazing one where they've got all the artists that have left and where they're going. So that sort of inspires the next generation. Doing some virtual work experience with Invest In. It doesn't cost anything to become a partner school, and they've been really useful. They'll come in and do, obviously it's been hard with COVID, but they'll come in and do sort of workshops with us for free. Always good to get some freebies. And then Future First also will come in and will sort of galvanise the alumni to come in and do some work with disadvantage. So we've got a workshop coming up where they're going to be working with sort of about 10 students for the whole day, and that's part of your package. So obviously you have to buy into them, but then you get other things in addition to that. And then, as I said, Unifrog is great for evaluating impact and sort of changing up your careers plan accordingly. And I don't do sort of a whole group communication to all parents. I try to do year group focused. So, because I know that parents don't always read everything you send out. So if it's something that's slightly more focused on what's their students are doing in that year group, and I've got 3 year groups going, actually no, 4 year groups going out on work experience this year, which was probably not my best idea, but we do a Take Your Daughter to Work Day. It's the 4th Thursday in April, where parents obviously take their daughters to work for that day, and we're doing that with the 8s and the 9s. Normally it's just the 8s. 10s are doing work shadowing, and then 12s as well. So that's Gatsby 1. I'll just maybe go quickly through Gatsby 3.
Sorry, for some reason the screen share is having a bit of a nightmare. Sorry, Julie, I'm sure it'll sort itself out.
I can see it if everyone else can. So yeah, this is about addressing the need of each pupil, and as we were saying, you know, it's really important to get all the year 11s at least seen throughout the 5 years by year 11. So I have a lot of support through, we have actually a teacher, we're a girls' school, so we have a teacher who's responsible for STEM, which is a massive area of equality and challenging stereotypes. On Unifrog, after they've had a one-to-one with the YC Hearts, they have an action plan that's uploaded onto that portal, which they can have for 3 years. They can have it for the rest of their life on Unifrog, but you never archive them. So they can always get onto Unifrog and find CV writing as well through that, personal statements and placements. That's module on, not module on. And then SLT, obviously, as probably most schools do, have options conversations. We've always document in there if they want a YC Hearts interview, and talk to them about their careers as well as part of that meeting. And then obviously we talked about the lunchtime careers week sessions by alumni. It's nice, as you say, to get alumni in. We had a barrister and a journalist, and virtual now, which is much more useful. We had a journalist who lives in Leeds, who obviously could come on virtual. It's not quite the same as being in person, but it's not bad. It's good to open it up to people who could be in other countries, alumni that you've got overseas, I suppose.
Yeah, I think there's good. I think there's good ways of using virtual now, isn't there, Julie? Like, yeah, I think everyone got to the screen block age of, like, if it was a whole week's virtual work experience for students, maybe not the best use, but insights, 1 hours, half days, project based, but also, like you say, alumni talks coming into the classroom on the smart board. Brilliant use of it.
Yeah, and that I think I found alumni really keen to want to do that, and they can always find a half an hour to speak to students. So and then I think because it's such a big job, as it's good to get more and more people involved within it, and getting the SENCO and the HT of inclusion involved with the SEN and the PP students. We try to give them as many sort of meetings as we can and tailor it to what they want, I suppose, which I think that what that lady was saying was actually not everything is ready for everyone, is it? So you've got to tailor it to what your cohort is. So that's me, really. That's
brilliant, Julie. Such a comprehensive amount of information. I'd normally pause to take questions, but I'm conscious of where we are time-wise. So I think that was really comprehensive, loads of great best practice, loads of brilliant ideas. And I'll share these slides on Monday on the HOP section, the Gatsby Benchmark section. But thank you very much, Julie. We're going to hand over now to Kate, if you're available to come off mute. Kate, thank you.
Hi, Steve. Can you hear me? Because our computer, I don't know what it is, the server, it's burst into life and it seems really loud. Can you hear it?
Yeah, it's perfect this end. Thanks, Kate.
Oh, that's good. Okay. Did you have a slide for me or not?
Yeah, let me get back through onto that.
Just to put our school into context, just so everybody knows, we're a small education support centre based in Hitchin and Letchworth. When I say small, we've got 30 students on roll. We've got 20 Key Stage 4 and 10 Key Stage 3. So Gatsby Benchmark 3 is a real strong point for us. We've changed the timetable this year, so all Key Stage 4 students are expected in the school Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and on a Wednesday they're all expected and supported to go out into the local community to do a work experience placement. We've had students at Sainsbury's, hairdressers, restaurants, doggy daycare, charity shops, local engineering companies, so there's a large variety of placements, and we support them with getting there and back if they need to, and if it's local then they're more than welcome to come for their lunch on a Wednesday and then go back. In amongst the timetable we have an hour of PSHE a week and an hour of a lesson that we call Bridge, and Bridge is bridging the gap between school and their next steps, whatever that may be, college, employment or apprenticeships. And in that lesson, they learn how to cook basic meals, handle a budget, iron their clothes, rewire a plug, driving test theory, all sorts of things, skills that they're going to need for when they're out in the working
real life
world.
skill. Brilliant.
Yes. Running alongside that, we have the Job Centre Plus team come to the centre. They've come for a number of years now, and they are really good. They probably do 6 fortnightly sessions for us. And amongst those sessions, I get them to focus on the things that you need to tick off for your Gatsby Benchmark 3, such as challenging gender stereotypes and local labour market information. And obviously they do that really well, so that's great. They focus on digital footprints. If an employer was going to search your name up prior to interview, what would they find? Would it be appropriate? They work on their body language, interview techniques, and they start their CVs off for them. And then it all culminates with interview practice with constructive feedback. We work with Natalie Phillips, who you mentioned earlier. She's been fantastic. She's been in a few times. More recently, she came in to scrutinise the students' CVs. They're very good at recognising their strengths and skills, but they find it difficult to put that into a paragraph with examples and things like that. So she was helping them to work on that. We've had various visitors to the centre recently, the Navy, Settles, a construction company. We've had a butcher in to dissect chickens with everyone. We've tailored visits out to work environments according to what vocational areas students are working in. So they've been to Champneys, we're off to the Expo in a couple of weeks, local restaurants again, and a company called Crane, who have been really accommodating with us. And then, of course, they have one-to-one meetings with Zella Neighbour half-termly. She records all the outcomes of the meetings and shares them with myself, and then I share them with members of staff. We use Unifrog. We use that a lot in bridge lessons as well. Debbie, if you're on here, you'd be very pleased to hear that Compass Plus is like literally hours away from going live for us over here. So that's brilliant. And then towards the end of year 11, we make really lovely levers portfolios for our students. And in that, they have all their certificates that they've earned across the year, in addition to teacher certificates for achievement and effort. If they're in construction, then they would have worked towards a CSCS card. If they're in catering, they would have got a food hygiene certificate. So it's lots of little things that help them with their next steps. And I will obviously, when Compass Plus goes live for us, I'll be using that to record all the activity. At the moment, it's all sort of pen and pencil kind of stuff. We do report on careers activity on termly reports. So that goes home to parents and carers, and obviously the students can read what they've done, what their aspirations are at that certain time, what they need to do. So I'm based at Bancroft myself, and I look after all the Key Stage 4 students. I am aware that I need to do a lot more with Key Stage 3. So that's in my development plan at the moment. But recently we had a Get Work Ready day where they were off timetable for a whole day. That was with Jane Shipley from ELSA. I don't know if anyone else has worked with her. But that was a great day. So she brought in a lot of volunteers from local businesses, and they had interview practice, they did team building games, and they learned about a typical day at work, if there's such a thing. And within their curriculum, they have an hour of social development every week, where they just learn how to have a conversation, how to, hold eye contact and just try and be mature and focus on correct body language and what have you. So I do feel that we do a lot. We're not working towards the award at the moment, but maybe something that I could consider for the future.
Yeah, no, thank you, Kate. That's been brilliant. So such a well-rounded approach, really addressing the need of each pupil, but a lot going on and really tailored approach. So really thankful for your time, Kate. Thank you very much.
No
And
problem.
Sophie, if you're available, I know you're juggling quite a few things at the moment, Sophie, but if you're able to come off mute and on camera.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sophie. Over to you.
All right, great. So I just wanted to talk to everyone about a career. We're at Chancellor School, so it's a mixed comprehensive in Brickman's Park, and we tend to, there's lots of other things besides the careers day that we do as part of our programme, but I just wanted to talk to you about that, just this careers day specifically today. So it happens early January. It's an annual event, and on the careers day, the entire school is completely off timetable and does nothing but careers all day. So logistically, a complete nightmare, to be frank, to organise, and a real headache, but actually in terms of getting a lot of boxes ticked and a lot of kind of focus on careers, it is actually a really useful day to have. So on the day itself, Year 7, they do work shadowing off-site. Generally, that's with a parent, but not always. And it gives them a little bit of a taster of a kind of a precursor to work experience, which they would later do in Year 10 and then again in Year 12. So they are kind of out of the picture. In Year 8, they do a series of in-school workshops, and these are led by staff, not our Chancellor staff. Nobody is brought in for that year group. So we do also have Unifrog. So in Year 8, they have an hour and a half dedicated Unifrog introduction. This is how we use it. This is how you will continue to use it, all the way through, as well as kind of playing around, and they have access to computers and such for that session. So it's really good to kind of highlight Unifrog and the benefits that it will provide them as they go through. Then they also have a session which is on their social media presence and their social media footprint, and just kind of drawing their attention to actually, you know, in Year 7 and Year 8, they'll be discovering social media, or arguably even earlier, but and actually what impact that then can have for them then later on. And then they have a third session all about body language. So we simulate and kind of create mock interview situations, so a mock job interview, and some of the staff kind of act out. There's videos of staff performing in a not particularly helpful way, and students kind of trying to ascertain which ways would be best to present themselves, and kind of like highlight that really to them, and how to present themselves. NHS are our kind of employer that we work with, so we always tend to lean on them, and they've done brilliant things for us in the past. This year they did a virtual talk to all of Year 9s, kind of going through all of the different possible opportunities and jobs that are available in the NHS besides just medicine. The previous years it's been in person, but obviously with the pandemic and the pressure that the NHS is under, then we did that virtually. And in Year 10, we've had a STEM talk. That's been through parents actually. One of our parents has worked for Now TV and Sky, and through this kind of STEM industry, and so those have kind of lent on external people for some of those. Then also in Year 9, we've done a bit with the Hertfordshire Skills Framework. They've had a session on that, so we've used a lot of the resources that are available, things like going through the questionnaires of what skills do you already have, and what can you do, and how can you evidence that, just to kind of help them along their way. Because I think, as I said, was said previously, that actually they could, to articulate what their skills are and present that in a paragraph is quite challenging for them. And then the Year 10s had a labour market information kind of session, and we use the HOP website quite extensively for that. So some of the kind of key employers within Hertfordshire, using them as the students had to kind of simulate, actually do some presentations of why would you want to work for Tesco, why would you want to work for GSK, and those sorts of things, using some of those resources that were already there. For both of those sessions, I asked the head of year, so the head of Year 9 and Year 10 effectively to use those resources, develop a session, and then they and their form tutor team were the ones that led that session. So even though as careers lead I'm kind of heading up this day, it's physically impossible to plan every single session. I really would drive myself mad, and so like there were plenty of resources, just kind of signposting people the resources that are available, and then they then put that together, and we're quite happy to do it. Also within year 9 and 10 for the rest of their day, I've introduced a bring your friend to work day, which always has a kind of generates a wry smile when I send the email out to staff. Essentially, it is exactly what it says. I invite staff to bring a friend or relative in for the day. It gets around safeguarding, because then their friend is with them all day. Their friend is their chaperone, so you don't have to be kind of escorting people. And then their friend delivers a series of kind of 30-minute workshops of who they are, what role they do, what profession, what industry, how did they get their typical day, all any of those sorts of questions that students might have. And then students have a carousel, so they have a 30-minute session from all of the 10 friends that are available that are there on the day. If the numbers of friends that we have who are available is such that I can then provide students with choice, if they would prefer, there's a kind of say like we've got lots of STEM type employers, then actually we could then give students the option that they would have more of a STEM day. This year, given COVID and things, it was more challenging to get people in than has previously been, and so there wasn't the choice element that I have been able to offer in previous years. But that kind of just is a bit, you will do what you can with that. For the friends, also another kind of avenue when we haven't had as many volunteers originally, and student we've gone to parents, asked them not only like when they're already existing parents to students in the school, but also on their admissions when they do when they come into year 7. There's a form that goes out with their admission, their welcome pack, that says, would you like to get involved in careers? If so, leave your details, what do you do and such. And then I get passed all of that information, so I've got a bank of people that I can lean on then for that, which is really, really helpful. So I've got lots of kind of potential backups. When doing a day like this, it is always helpful to have backup plans. I think this year there was somebody pulled out at 9:30 ready to deliver a session at 9:35, so that was slightly stressful. So if you are going to do a session like this, then yeah, definite backup plans. Then ELSA, traditionally we've been just with year 11, that we've worked with them and worked with them for a number of years now, but in year 12 missed the day of the year previously, then we ran that for both year groups this year. And then year 13 have also been off-site, either completing work experience, planning work experience, or doing university visits as they would whatever kind of see fit. So it kind of all works. As I said, logistically it's a big task, but it is really important and really nice to have the whole day kind of focused on careers. It gives you the opportunity to do kind of surveys and things of the parents and of the students afterwards as well, so that they've had a real careers focus, and then actually you can do a lot of evaluation as to what worked, what would they prefer to be focused on in the following year, because the whole school's just been focused on careers for the day.
That's brilliant, Sophie. It's such a great approach, and I know your program's a really rich and deep program in Chances, and this is one aspect of a big program, but I just love the wraparound that it's in every year group, evaluations built into it. So thank you ever so much. I'm conscious that we're running over time, so I'm going to rush through a few last minute parish notices. A massive thank you to all our guest speakers. I would encourage any of the guest speakers, feel free to share any resources that you're happy to go up on HOP. So I know, Sophie, you've just alluded to some lesson plans that have been adapted and things. If there's anything you're happy to share wider, please do send it through to me and I will upload it to the HOP Gatsby Benchmark session. if today's galvanizing your kind of thoughts towards your careers program and you want some support, there is the last offer for the free careers leader training. This is a level 6 course. On average, careers leaders that have undertaken it are hitting 6 or more benchmarks, but registration closes on the 31st of March. So please do click through and have a look and register if you're interested. Quite a few people on today's talk are using Compass Plus, and others are considering moving over, and some even going live today. But if you're interested in moving over to Compass Plus, particularly around that kind of how it can help with destinations data, how it can help with evaluation, and it can help with generating reports, then please do have a look at these links to find out more about moving over. And all careers leaders on the call, please be aware that over the next couple of weeks, we're looking for everyone to do a Compass update, either on your own or with your EC. So do reach out to your EC if you need any help with that. We've run some networking sessions last week, and we had an amazing organisation called Would You Rather Be. So if any of you are trying to use up some careers budget this academic year, they've got a special Hertfordshire introductory offer of £300 plus VAT, valid until the 1st of April. This is a great interactive careers quiz. It really gets a lot of thought going. It's a really good way of finding out what students are interested in and gaining a smaller focus for when they go off to their careers advisor appointment. It can be used for any age group, and it can be used for adults as well, and teachers. So have a look at that. And we've got a really good relationship with Phil and Emma from Would You Rather Be, who are happy to issue some test accounts so you can have a go on and play with it before you decide to commit to buy that if you're interested. Like I say, everything we've covered today is going to be on this new HOP Gatsby Benchmark section. You'll be able to click through to Gatsby Benchmark 1, Gatsby Benchmark 3 and get examples of evaluations and the work templates that we've shown today, as well as the video. If you've had to dip in and out of today's session, you'll be able to watch the whole video back, or if you've been unable to attend live. And then finally, we've got our Gatsby Benchmark 5 and 6 workshop on the 15th of June, 2 till 3:30 on Zoom, and invites will come out to that over the Easter holidays, and we'll be running some more networking sessions in June, which we'll hope to see you all at. So thank you ever so much for your time today. Sorry that we've taken 10 minutes extra, but hopefully it's been useful. Again, a big thank you to all our guest speakers, and myself and some of my team will stay on now for a few minutes if anyone's got any questions. But Chris, if you could stop recording now, that'd be great. Thanks for your time, everyone, and have a good evening.